You're now diving into the fish tank.
Sitting down with Seth Living, OJ, Juice Man.
Welcome back to the Fish Tank right here on the Miami Dolphins Podcast Network. Seth Levitt, DJ Preach with a little holiday cheer, and the man always giving gifts, OJ McDuffie. Juice, how you feeling today, man?
What's up, Big Seth?
This is a great time. This is my favorite time of the year, and especially when the Dolphins are relevant. You know, we're in the hunt, trying to win a few more games to get into the postseason here. But I'm excited today, Juice. Every week I think I say I'm excited, but since we started this show 2 years ago, there's been two guests that people will not stop asking for.
All the time.
Dan Marino's all right. We know Danny. Okay, we get it. And we understand the process that it takes to get Danny on this thing. And I don't know that this is the right environment for Dan. So we got to wait till we can get back in front of people. But the other guy that they will not stop asking about, and they can now, because our gift to our listeners is diving into the tank today for the first time. Brian Cox, welcome to the tank, man.
What's happening? What's going on?
B. Cox, my man. What's good, man? So
what
good
up,
to see
OJ?
you,
Always, brother. Always.
No better way to kick off Buffalo Bills week, right?
That's right. That's right. We'll get into that too. Yeah, absolutely, man. So yeah, that's what's up, man. B. Cox is one of my favorites, man. So I can't wait to dive into this one, Big Seth.
I think B. Cox is a lot of people's favorites, and especially, like I'm telling you, Brian, on Twitter, we will not get they won't stop asking, when's Brian coming in? When's Brian? And we've told, hey, we've been in communication. Juice is talking to him. I can't take any damn credit for it, but Juice has been talking to him. B. Cox said he's going to be in here. We know his word is good. He'll be in here. So we're so excited to have you in, man. There's so much to talk about. And as Priest just said, certainly heading into playing against the Buffalo Bills, there's a lot to talk about there. But what I want to talk about first and foremost is from day one, from the day you got to Miami, and I knew this as a fan, I think certainly guys like Juice who were in the locker room with you, you always had a reputation of being a tough guy from a tough city, right? I mean, that was a reputation that came with you when you got here. And the truth is, the only reason I've even ever heard of East St. Louis is because I grew up a Dolphins fan, and Brian Cox is from East St. Louis, one of the toughest cities in America, right? That's what we always hear. Now, somebody who's in the background here today, I won't name his name, but Scott Stone said, well, East St. Louis was also a reference in the vacation movies there. But again, East St. Louis, tough city. I know that because of Brian Cox. Help us understand, though, what that really means. Talk to us about your hometown. Why does it have that reputation, and how did that impact you and shape the person that you are and who you became, growing up there?
Well, there are a couple different reasons for that. Back in the 60s, the St. Louis closed early, so people crossed over the Mississippi River to come to East St. Louis to party, to do the after-hour joints and to hang out. The toughness of the city came about because, growing up during the era in which I grew up, either you had to fight or you had to run. And I couldn't run, so I had to learn how to fight. And so that's where that came from. But, the city is also known as the city of champions when you look at it for the number of high school championships we won in football and track and field and basketball. And so when you look at East St. Louis, you look at the Jackie Joyner Kersey story, Olympian, several times over coming from out of there, and the Eric Wright playing for the San Francisco 49ers, and, James Harris playing for the Minnesota Vikings and the Las Vegas Raiders. And, you look at the Spinks brothers coming out of there, you look at some of the talent that's come from East St. Louis, and it's not just the tough part. People like to talk about that aspect. Mm-hmm. But at one time, it was a wonderful city in which your neighbor and people were able to teach you, and to even, it was back in those days when your next door neighbor, when you got in trouble, your next door neighbor whooped you and sent you home, and then your parents whooped you. So it hadn't always had that reputation, but I think the way that it shaped me was it allowed me to understand that there was never any quit. There was never any give up. There was never any, I'm going to let this person take my dignity or take something from me. So that wasn't what was going to happen from my neighborhood in which I came from in Charlie Park. You wasn't doing that.
as Preach said, we're heading into Buffalo here. We all know what this week is about, and again, it's a rivalry again, which is fantastic. Your career, Brian, will always be tied to your unique. I'll use you quoted something earlier. I'm going to quote unique relationship with that team, with that city, certainly with those fans in Buffalo. At what point does shit go sideways in Buffalo? And what's the real story behind the middle fingers, that famous vision that we have of you being escorted off the field with, Inspector Clouseau over there and Stu and that, all the stuff that we've seen. And we've heard a lot about this, but I really want to hear it from you. That how did stuff turn the way it turned to get to that point in Buffalo?
Again, I take responsibility. It was me. I'd made a comment in 92 or 93 that all the men were uneducated and all the women were fat. And that kind of that kind of pissed him off. But that led to most of the acrimony that you saw from the years, the build up and the things. One thing is I couldn't stand them. I'd go to the Pro Bowl and I'd be over there and Jim Kelly would be talking to women like, hey, honey, bring me a drink and this and that. And like, I'm Jim Kelly. And I'm like, who does that? And you would get over there and Bruce Smith would just be casual. And, I like Bruce now. We become kind of friends. But during that time, I think it was me using those visuals to get me angry and to get stoked up. And so when I made that comment about their fans, to no surprise, I go to the stadium and they're throwing AAA batteries at me. They hit me with the AAA batteries. Great. And so one game I come out with the handkerchief over my nose and my mouth, and I got it covered because I'm like, ain't nothing to say now. We're here to play. It's time to play. So all the talking, y'all can keep talking. I'm going to take care of business. And so we get up there and we beat them the first time I do that. The second time we go up there and play them, the next year is where we getting murdered. And I'm like, we can't win the game. Might as well win the war. So I try to kick Caldwell Gardner in his nuts. Start stomping on him, trying to stomp him in his nuts. And so I get kicked out the game. And so, that was the whole thing. But, now when you look back at it 30 years or so ago, you just think about, how immature I was, and sometimes as a person, when you're young and you don't fully understand what's happening, it don't matter. But as you get older, you try to say, I was a fool. I did foolish things at that point. And so you don't want people to go around and emulate that and think that that was cute. That was immature. It was foolishness. And so if I could go back and change some things, I'd probably change some things. But at the end of the day, that raw emotion is what made me a good player.
Right.
So to take that away, I'm not sure how that will work, but I would like to think that I'm a whole lot smarter now.
You know what? You talked about family a little bit too, man. And I guess I became part of the family when you and Tony Martin and Urban Fryer and all y'all, taped me up and threw me in the cold tub as a rookie. That's why it's part of the family, right?
Everybody had to go.
Everybody had to go.
But here's the thing though. You guys thought you had it bad. You didn't have it bad. When I came in, okay, I'm drafted in 1991. I come in, the linebackers on the team, Hugh Green, E.J. Jr., John Offerdahl, John Grimsley, Cliff Odom. It was somebody else that was older. It was like 7 guys all had 10 to 12, 13 years.
Right.
But guess what they did to me? Okay. We go on the road to play during the preseason, and we had roommates back in those days. Hugh Green took the cover off the bed, laid it on the floor, and say, "Don't touch this bed. Sleep on the floor." And he went out. Back then, everybody would sneak out the room. He went out and said, "When I come back, you better not be in the bed." So I said, "Okay, I'm trying to get a good night's sleep, so I sleep on the floor." When I come back, he comes in the room, jump on me, drunk, and we wrestling at about 4:00 in the morning.
Before a game.
Before a game. This was preseason, though. This was preseason.
Okay.
But it's like,
But you're trying to make a team.
right. And they worried about getting thrown in the pool.
Right.
I'm trying to make the team the night before a game and try to get some rest. And I get a vet come in and jump on me, and we wrestling. I'm talking about full out wrestling at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
What the hell is going on?
I'm like, either one of us could have got hurt because it was almost a fight.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
easily.
I'm doing what you said. I ain't sleeping in the bed, man. I'm on the floor. Why you coming in here about? But those guys taught me so much about football, and that pours into the family, because those guys back then, during those times, people won't believe this, but I tell people all the time that Hugh Green especially would go out, stay out to 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, go straight to the facility, and when you get in the morning about 6, he's already run 4 miles. He's been in the hot tub. He's already lifted weights. He's already done all that before 6 o'clock in the morning.
Sound like somebody else I know on this show.
But it was a real veteran group, and those guys would stand me on the side and say, "Okay, tell me what the play is, what we doing, what you doing, where your eyes at." That's how I learned ball.